it.
Well, it had full battery there. I got a jump pack right there.
Yeah. That helps a lot because mine's at my house.
This one's finicky too.
That's like a pretty new battery.
Hold on.
Throttle stuck.
Is it?
Hold. You're good. No. I wouldn't throw that hot. I would just keep it low and keep it full. Yeah, you're good. Keep going. You want to back up more? Yeah. I will back up more. Yeah, he's gonna back up more. That's good. Leave it right there. Leave it right there. I don't think we're even doing this. I think. There you go. You're good. Great.
Oh, there it goes. There it goes. It did it itself.
So this is what I'm gonna guess to be an early 2000s Gehl CTL60. It's the exact same machine that I already have, and that machine has been so great that I decided that if I found another one, I would probably get it if it was a good deal. So I found this, and it was like 2 hours away, and the guy said that it didn't operate at all. He said the engine started, but there was no functions that worked at all. So I'm just gonna run you through what I thought would be the problem before I even made plans to go and get this. Because 2 hours there and back with a truck and trailer is a waste of time if you don't at least have somewhat of a plan. So I thought at the very easiest, it would be the lockout solenoid or the lockout switch, which is that lap bar in there that goes down and locks out all the hydraulic functions. That's what the problem sounded like it would be to me. But you also have to think of what's the worst case scenario. And I thought the worst case scenario would not be the pumps, because there's 4 of them. There's 2 gear pumps and there's 2 piston pumps. And the chances of it being all 4 of those pumps is absolutely impossible. So then I thought, well, the next thing from there could be the shaft that goes from the engine to the pumps. I'm pretty sure that that goes through all the pumps into the engine, and I think if that were to snap off close to the engine, then that would give all the pumps no power whatsoever. So I thought about it for a while, and basically that was the worst case scenario that I could think of. There's really not much in the way of computers for these machines, so that probably wouldn't be the problem. There is some relays and there is a small computer or 2, but they're not really that big of a deal, and if I had to replace them, they wouldn't be that expensive. But 99% chance that would not be the case. So I thought if the engine runs good, this seems like it would be a good buy. The guy was asking $97.50 for it. I got him down to $8,500. And you can see I messed around with it for a little bit when I got there. I messed around with the lockout solenoid switch, which is basically just a proximity switch. I messed around with that for a little bit. The first thing I noticed was that somebody tried to do something with this switch here. Somebody spliced some wires in, tried to jump it. I don't think that they were very successful. The other thing that jumped out at me right off the bat, somebody tried to put a new ignition switch in here, and this is just like a basic universal ignition switch. So it looks to me like, you know, there's like this wire with a fuse there. It looked to me like somebody really hacked this thing up. I don't think it was the guys that I got it from. I think somebody before them tried to do it. I think this machine was sitting for a while and nothing worked. And from the looks of it, this thing had a pretty rough life. This came from New York City. To me, it looks like somebody was using this to handle salt with, because you can see there is some rot in the frame. So we got to address that, but that's probably going to be the last thing that I address. The first few things is going to be just getting this thing operable. I'd like to pressure wash this off first thing, but I think it would be more important to get it moving first, and then I can pull it outside and pressure wash it off. I was gonna just pick this right up off the trailer with a big machine and just place it down, but then I gotta pressure wash it, and then I gotta somehow pull that big machine with this machine in this garage, which might be feasible, but I don't know, it seems like a pain. I'd rather just spend a little bit of time, try to get this working, then we can pull it out and start addressing other things. But you can see that there's definitely some crust and some rust and some rot, and looks like we're gonna have to rebuild some parts here. But I got it for cheap enough that I think the problem that it has is gonna be nothing more than a few $100s. So at that point, we can spend some money on some steel, we can spend some time, and we can get this thing back into shape to be a usable skid steer on a job. One thing I thought right off the bat was this secondary auxiliary hydraulics is dripping here. So we must be getting some kind of pressure, although we have nothing going to the pilot valves. You can feel the pilot valves, they're just so loose and sloppy that the joysticks, they have no resistance whatsoever, so there's no fluid going through them. This bucket is, I don't think I'm gonna do anything with this bucket. I don't know, I guess we'll have to see, but the bottom is just completely rotted out. I guess if I could just throw some steel on the bottom and have another bucket, then that'd be great, but we'll see. I'm not even really thinking about this stuff right now. I'm thinking about getting this thing moving and seeing how everything is. Because you never know, even if I get it working, there could be like a bad final drive. There could be something rotted out with the tensioner for the tracks. There could be a host of things that I have no idea until I get this thing moving. So that's the most important thing right now. And believe it or not, it's more important than even pressure washing this thing at this point. Another thing is this dash here is all torn apart. I don't know if that was just like smashed by accident or if somebody was trying to break into that to start the machine. I don't know why the key is missing, but it happens. So I don't think it's stolen or anything like that. It seems to me like it just had a really rough life and somebody just sort of forgot about it. Somebody with a lot of money, with a lot of machines. They just sort of ran it until the wheels fell off and then they just sort of parked it and forgot about it. You can see there is just stuff everywhere. So I really think that there's a 99% chance that this is an electrical problem with the hydraulics, that they're not working. So it's really hard to film stuff like that because you could spend hours doing nothing that's worth being on camera. So I'll try to take you guys through what I'm going to do to get this fixed. And at this point I have no idea, but I think the first thing we need to do is look for the lockout solenoid, which I have no idea where it is on this machine. I have the like I said, I have the same exact machine, but I never had to mess with the lockout solenoid. And that is basically the solenoid that I believe it turns on all the functions for the pilot controls. Because without pilot controls, you have no functions. So I'm not even going to test the pressure of the hydraulics or the flow or anything else. I'm going to go right to that lockout solenoid and we'll see what's going on. So another thing I noticed in here is that they put a new starter in, but the starter bolts are not even tightened, and also there's some loose connections on the starter, and there's also some connections that I already started to put back, like this ring terminal right here was not even on the alternator. That was just like sitting off like that. So you see that little ring terminal? That wasn't even on there. I know that goes on there. I don't even have to look at the other machine. I just know that goes on there. And then there was just some other wires that just, there's a lot of really shady wiring on this. So hopefully we don't have to spend too much time, because you can really spend a lot of time with wiring, figuring out where things go. Sometimes it's obvious, but sometimes it's not. So this machine, without that ring terminal on, still starts and runs. So apparently somebody bypassed something, because I'm pretty sure that powers most of the things on this machine. So quickly, while the machine was still at the seller's house, I did put that ring terminal back on to that bolt right there, and it didn't make any difference. Nothing seemed to work. So I don't know if there's maybe a fusible link or something there, but at this point it doesn't even really matter. The only thing that really matters right now is getting these hydraulics working, and for that I think this is the lockout solenoid right here. Okay, so I just actually swapped that solenoid with the one from my other machine. It didn't make any difference, so I'm pretty sure that that's not the lockout solenoid. So we got to dig a little bit further. I'm going to check in the manual, because I know somewhere in there it says something about it. It's just, there's hundreds of pages to go through and it's hard to figure out exactly where. So I'm thinking that the only other place it could be is underneath the cab, so I'm going to go ahead and lift that. The bolts are already out, so I should be able to just lift it. The struts do not work, and this is extremely heavy, so I can lift it like a foot, but it's pretty dangerous. So I'm going to put a come along on there, just attach it over to here, lift that up, and then I'll put a bolt in the safety lock for it. looks like an ignition. I don't think that that's the old one. No, that looks like another universal one. Man, this thing has got a lot of crusties. Got a lot of crusties in here. All right, so we got that valve block there. There's not even any solenoids on that. We got that one up there, which that's the one we were looking at before. That's not the right one, I don't think. There's that valve block. There's this one. This one's leaking. Look at that. But from the looks of it, I don't think that that's the right one. That doesn't look like it's for the pilot controls. I'm not sure what that would be for, but I guess I do have to address that leaking at some point. So it looks like usually it's pretty close to this filter assembly, which is for the pilot controls. So actually this might be it right here. Actually, yeah, look at that. We got spare wire here. This is not even connected here. I don't know what that's about. Something, a loose connector right here. That looks like where this goes actually. Oh yeah, look at that. Well, there's no way it could be that simple though. Well, the way to tell if this is working is you can feel like a slight buzzing almost. So let's just try. Okay. Yeah, I don't feel anything. Let's test the connections. Maybe it's not getting any juice. So disconnect this. And I should be getting just positive and negative out of this. And this connector right here shows me that this is positive and this is negative because that's red and black. So if we connect that, so it should be positive, negative. So let's turn the key on and see what we got there. Pretty sure the key would have to be on. So we got nothing. Alright, so let's keep the positive on there and put the ground with the negative somewhere else. That will show us if we're missing a ground. That doesn't appear to do anything. So now let's put the ground back on. Take off the positive. Now we just got to hook this into something that's going to be hot. Which I have a fuse over here. Let me just see if I can get a little power off of that. Okay, I don't see anything on that. Oh, wait, let me see here. Huh. No, I don't see anything off of that. Okay, that's weird. I'm getting ground from where the positive is supposed to be. I'm showing 10 something volts on the ground. Now I'm showing 6 volts where the ground is supposed to be, which, let's see, let me just make sure. Okay, so I got, yeah, the battery's really low right now, so it's like not even 11 volts. But it looks like like the ground might be a little shady because it's not getting a full ground. It's getting 6 volts on the ground instead of at least 11 or 10 and a half like I'm supposed to be getting. It seems like the ground is a little shady, but also I'm getting more ground on the positive side than I am on the negative side. That's interesting. That could actually be from the solenoid lockout switch. That could be that is not engaged. That's probably what that is. So at this point, I'm thinking we might have to jump the solenoid and see if that will do anything, because it looks like both our ground and our positive are not what they're supposed to be. So I'm just going to run a jumper wire, run it right into this solenoid. Alright, so since the positive for some reason goes to a different connection here, we can actually disconnect that and we can just put a jumper wire right in there. See if that makes a difference. Also, I did take this out just to see if there was anything that I could spot that was wrong with it. So let's hook this back into here. That way we should have the ground, which we don't know is good yet, but we'll put the positive in here. And I should be able to feel something working. And I should also be able to see a small little arc in here. But I don't see any kind of arc. Usually when I'm testing these solenoids, there's just a very faint spark, but there's absolutely nothing here. So, I don't know, maybe it's not getting a good enough ground. Let's try to give it ground and positive. So I'm just going to jump both of these. I know this isn't exactly the best way to do this, but this is a quick and easy way to do it. So the positive goes here. Negative goes here. Oh wow, look at that. I don't know if you guys can see that, but yeah, that's a lot more than it should have. That's pulling a lot of amps. That's, yeah, I can feel the wires really hot right now. So you know what that tells me? That tells me that this solenoid is no good. This solenoid should not be heating up a wire like that. It takes a little bit of current, but not that much. So, you know the really cool thing about this, and I thought about this from the beginning, I have the exact same machine that I can start pulling parts off of outside. So let me go and get the solenoid from that one and bring it back here and we'll try it. Alright, so here's the one from the other machine. We'll put that in there just tentatively. Doesn't need to be tight. Might be pulling it back out. So this one should behave a lot differently. Okay, so yeah, that's about perfect. I see the slightest little spark coming off of that ground when I connect it. I don't know if you guys can see that or not. Let's see where we can do it. That is how it should work. As I'm rubbing it up against here, there's just a very small spark. You know, I can also feel a slight vibration in here now. You know, that might have been the problem. Let me just jumper this in a way where I can keep it secure and start this machine up and see if it will work now. Alright, so I got something rigged up here. I gave it my own ground and I gave it my own positive. Now we'll just put the ground right here. So now we get to test it out. Oh, wow, look at that. There we go. Yep, okay. Huh?
I said, look at that.
There she be. Well, let's get it unloaded.
Sweet.
All right, so what did we learn here? We learned that the solenoid is bad. It did not have the correct positive, and it did not have the correct ground. So there was 3 different things wrong with that. I think it was only by luck that I got all 3 of them figured out so quickly, because usually you stumble on one and then you're sitting there looking other places. But I figured, you know what, let's make sure that this has good ground and positive before I move on to anything else. And the solenoid was bad, so what do you figure? But yeah, that was the main problem with this machine. Now we got to figure out the other problems. And I'm going to definitely have to spend some time, probably several days, figuring out all the wiring, because I also noticed that there is a slew of wires here that are just not even connected. This, I believe, was all the wires that go into the dash here for the ignition. And I think what they did is ran a single wire just for the fuel shutoff solenoid and maybe the starter. And I think all the rest of these wires are not hooked up to the ignition switch. I also noticed that the grid heater is staying on. So I think whatever they did, they didn't make it so that when this is in the run position, the grid heater turns off, which I'm pretty sure it's supposed to. It's really only supposed to be running while you're starting the machine. So that kept draining the battery too. So we got to figure that out. We got to figure this whole wiring situation out, because there's definitely some things going on. Plus we need to get that safety switch working again. I don't want to leave it the way it is right now, because basically right now the lap lever doesn't work. So I want to get that working again. So we'll have to trace down that problem. But this gets us moving for now so we can get off this trailer.
It's just flopping there. Thing. Woo. So the arms won't go down, huh?
Yeah, the arms won't go down and it won't curl up. It'll only curl down. It seems like the float is stuck on.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it seemed like this is just flopping in the breeze.
I gotta go through the wiring. I think that's something to do with the wiring. I think the float was just stuck on.
Yeah, wiring nightmare.
At least I can move it though.
And that bucket of Swiss cheese.
Yeah. The throttle is completely stuck though. So whatever it is right now, that's all I can do. I can't rev it up or down. I guess I got it good enough to power wash it though. Whole truck is shaking. I think it's past the fulcrum point now. It's a little easier. All right, so we just figured out that pressing the auxiliary pedal forward releases it so that it's not on actually. When you start the machine, it's actually deadheading the auxiliary hydraulics. And the only way to stop it is to actually press the pedal forward. Pressing it backwards doesn't do anything as far as I can see. It just keeps it deadheaded. But if we press the pedal forward, it enables me to drop the boom and it allows me to curl up the bucket. So at this point, I got to figure out why this is staying on. And actually, there's the electronic version of this on this joystick, which is the auxiliary hydraulics forward and backwards. So actually, let me see if that will do anything as well. You can hear the auxiliary. Oh yeah, look at that. Yeah, so as soon as you do that, then it'll curl. Look at that. And it'll go down. Up, up, and down. Yeah. Now release it. Yeah, I don't know. For some reason, the third function hydraulics are just, they're staying on. I don't know why. It's either something to do with the electronics going to this one, or it's something physical going to this one. I almost wonder if the ground that we don't have here, I wonder if that's something to do with it.
Well, maybe the ground is supposed to be switching. I don't know.
Well, there's this right here, which that looks like a black wire to me, and it looks like it could be grounding something, but I don't know where it goes. I have no idea. It's just like, I have no idea. I almost think the thing to do right now is just keep that pedal hammered down, and then it'll be fine. No, I don't know. We got to find out why it's doing that.
We gotta find the root cause of it.
Yeah, this is a 6. Yeah, it fits really nice in here. Oh yeah, okay.
That's in there. This other one just needs to be like cleaned out or something. I can't even get it in. Need like a pick.
You got this front one, Lou?
Yeah. That's weird. Doesn't want to go in. There we go. Now we can continue on with the other bolts. I had to weld a nut onto this one to take it off. Yeah, I think this one's going to need some persuasion too. It's going to need a new nut. And of course the one next to it you can't even get to. Got one of them. Get to this valve. Dead mouse in there. Yeah. Can't just take this thing apart just the way it is. Seems like I ought to be able to. So I'm trying to get this valve out of here, but everything's so rusted and the hose fittings are not moving. So I've had a lot of people tell me to take like a jackhammer like this, or a rotary hammer, or whatever you want to call it, and tap the fitting with the end of this with the vibration. I guess this would be a good time to try it out and see if it works. that cran trick really did work. That really just happened? That thing spun that right off. That trick really does work. Look at this. I just hit that with that rotary hammer. I literally just did that. I couldn't believe it. I had everything I could do to try to turn that off. I hit it with that rotary hammer and it literally just came right off. For the couple dozen comments that I've had on that, thank you guys. That was awesome. I'm definitely gonna utilize that in the future. It was hard to believe if that would actually do anything. Every time somebody commented and said that, I said, yeah, these guys don't know how tight these fittings are. Well, they do. And the cran trick worked too.
What are you doing?
Magic?
Yeah, I don't believe you do magic. Anyways, I'm gonna be leaving in the next 5 minutes.
You guys caught that. Is amazing. Have a great angle to push it the way I want it to. Might have to give this a try with a wrench. Hopefully that at least loosened it up though. This one off because it's the last one. At least we can do that because it's the last one. Alright, so really the only access into this thing is going to be through this bolt and this cap right here. Both of those are kind of seized up, but got to kind of get them off. I can feel there's tension going that way, and then going the other way there's just nothing.
Something's seized up inside of there. Gotta get inside. That's what it is. Look, there's two little like pistons right there, and neither one of them are moving. See, that one's stuck. So we just need to get that freed up. I don't know, maybe we don't even have to take this apart. Maybe we just gotta like take a pair of pliers and move it back and forth, get all the crud out, oil it up. That's how you get it off. Just completely seized up. This side is fine. This side. Alright, well, I wasn't able to get this piece off for some reason. I don't know why. But that rotary hammer freed up that thing. As soon as I hit it, that thing just popped right up. That's kind of what I was looking for. So now we can, because I pushed that down too far and I couldn't pull it back out. So, but now that it's up, maybe we can just work it with a little bit of oil, and then we don't have to take this apart any further. There we go. Now it's nice and freed up. I'm confident that that's fixed. Most of the disassembling we did for this was pretty much for nothing, but it's fixed, so that's all that matters. That is sweet. So I could have ordered a new valve, but I have no idea how long it would have taken. I think it was around $300 to $400 for that valve. So for, I guess, an hour's worth of my time, it was worth it doing that. Plus I probably would have had to wait a week or two to get it. So that is really nice. So basically that valve was stuck on in one way just a little bit, and that was enough to mess up all the hydraulics. It was making the flow go different ways than it should. And I've had that happen before, and that's how I picked up on that after a little bit. It took me a few minutes, but a few months ago, I was using my Takeuchi TL60 up in the Adirondacks, and I accidentally hit that pedal while I was setting that solar shed, and right as I was setting it down, the boom wouldn't go down. Every time I hit down, it would go up, and it was making me so mad. And I realized that I hit the third function there just a little bit, and that's all it took. And it wouldn't let that boom go down. And it also wouldn't let the bucket go down. The same exact thing that happened with this. So I kept trying to let go of the shed because it was in position, and every time I did anything, it kept lifting it up further and further, and I was getting so frustrated with that. And that's how I kind of picked up on this. Probably should have picked up on it a little bit sooner, but it's fixed.
Ow. Oh my God. That is just caked. Oh. Good Lord. I've never seen something so packed. Hey. Oh God, that smells horrible too. Oh.
So I was just trying to do some testing to figure out why the safety restraint bar wasn't working to turn on the solenoid, which unlocks the hydraulics. And by the way, I put a new one on. I ordered that overnight and got it, and I put it on so that my other skid steer wasn't down. So if you recall, we didn't have any power going to that, and we didn't have any ground. So I'm trying to figure out why we didn't have any power. So I got looking around and I saw these two plugs right here, which are not doing anything at the moment. I read the wiring diagram and I was looking for a green and white wire as well as a red and black wire. So that one that you see that's closest to you is the green and white, and it's just not connected to anything. And so that is supposed to have power coming from the fuse box, which is right down there. So there's supposed to be a green and white wire coming basically right out of that fuse box. And I think it junctions off into one other thing, and then it's supposed to go from there and connect right there. I looked all over the place in here and I cannot find that wire that goes to there. I almost think that somebody took this dash apart and maybe that wire is shoved down into there somewhere. I don't know, or it got cut off somewhere. I'm not really sure. But so I did some testing, and basically that wire is supposed to go from the fuse box into that connection and then to another connector, and that is the connector for the restraint bar. So then out from that proximity switch, there is a red and black wire, and that is supposed to go back down through this wire loom here, and that goes all the way over into there, and it splits apart from there and goes into these relays, and then it has a relay for this solenoid inside of here. So then from the relay it goes back to the solenoid and powers it. So the first thing I did was test out whether that proximity switch works. So I'm going to put this on continuity mode, which basically all that does is tell you if these are connecting or not. That's all it does. Very simple. So basically, when you have that bar down, it should be closed, and when you have it open, it should be open. There should be no connection if it's open. So if I put this right here, and then there's this other one right here, which you would think would be the other side of that switch, but it's not. The other side of the switch is actually down here. So you can actually see there's a red and black wire. You probably can't see it, but I'm telling you there's a red and black wire right there. So I'll just stick that on one. Stick the other in here. Okay, so that's making continuity right now. And now it's not. That's what's nice about the continuity tester. It usually has a beeper on it, so you don't even have to be looking at it. So that's the first thing I did. So now we can rule out the proximity sensor. That works fine. So now obviously we don't have power going into here. So basically power goes in through here, and then it goes through the proximity switch and then back out through this red and black wire. So we know that we have continuity, we just don't have power going through, but we don't know the rest of the situation yet. So there's a relay that red and black wire goes through here and goes into the relay, out of the relay, and then into this solenoid. So we can't test continuity between that red and black wire to the solenoid because there's a relay in between, and if the relay is not energized, then there's no connection in between it. But one easy way that we can do something here is to just give that power, give that red and black wire power, and actually we know that we got continuity through the green and white wire, so we can actually just give the green and white wire power, and then we can just check to see if the relay turns on. I'm just going to jump this. I gave power to that green and white wire. Now let's listen for a click in that relay. See? So we know that the relay is at least responding. We don't know if it works yet, but now let's test the power right at the solenoid. Now the problem I've been having lately with this machine is that the grid heater keeps turning on and just staying on, so it's really draining the battery. So the voltage is going to be pretty low, but it'll be close enough that we can tell if it's getting power. So I know wire nuts are not a good connection device, but I usually use them for a temporary connection because crimping and soldering and doing the heat shrink stuff is just, it's not necessary to test things out. Once we know what everything is, then we can go ahead and do the shrink solder. Right now, let's put that on DC volts. Okay. So we've got 10 volts with the bar down, nothing with it up. Down, up. So what does that tell us? That tells us that our proximity sensor works. We don't need to order a new one. I hate throwing parts at things. And we know that our relay works. So at this point, all I need to do is figure out a way to give power over to there from here. I'd like to use the original power source, which was the green and white wire. So I'm gonna go into here and figure out where that stops. And then we can kind of trace it back from there. And then we can either give it power from there to there or find the other wire that it was on before. And as far as this solenoid goes, we replace the solenoid, and if we give it power, then that's settled. The third thing was the ground. And here's a ground wire that's just sitting here. I don't know what this is supposed to do, but in any case, the ground doesn't need to be anything special, so I just gave it a ground right from this bolt right here. And if I remember correctly, I think I actually had to do that on my other machine too, because I had that same problem where there was a ground that was missing. So if we have to leave that on a bolt there or just give it another ground, that's no big deal. I'm not trying to get crazy with the ground. And I found out that this bunch of wires, which I thought might be really important, it's not really important. Most of these wires I think are for the HVAC system, which these wires, I believe most of these are for the AC if it had one. That's why I can't find any connections for it. These 3 wires might be for the blower motor. I think I've narrowed it down to that. But we're just not worried about that right now, so we'll just sort of set this aside. But it's good to get this stuff out of your way, because if you think that this might be a problem and then you discover that it's not, then it's just a process of elimination, something you can check off the list. And I also checked, because there's a lot of open-ended wires here, I also checked to make sure there was no voltage at anything, and there isn't. There's no voltage at anything, so it's not going to arc out somewhere. So as I was going through things, I just sort of found some sensors that were unhooked. So I hooked them back in, and I was just looking around, and I came to this fuel filter, and something doesn't look right. When you shake it, there's like a liquid level right here that's separated between two liquids. You guys know what that means, right? The water's all at the bottom. That's water. That's just straight water right there. I don't even know how that thing worked at all. It's like a ½ inch of diesel on the top. But I mean, the machine runs great. I don't know. Kind of weird. There was like a drop of diesel on the top. Anyways, back to the task at hand here. This throttle is seized up. I think it's just right here in this lever. It's just nothing but rusted here. So I think if maybe we put some oil in there, hopefully the cable is fine. Try that out.
That looks really milky. Oh yeah. Definitely very milky.
Oh boy.
Alright, so currently where I am with this skid steer is it was too cold to pressure wash this out, and now it's warm enough to do it, but I have everything apart so much that it doesn't make sense to do that yet. So I have the hydraulic oil drained out, and I have other things apart where it's not really worth putting it back together just to pressure wash it. So I'm just going to continue on with what I can, and then we'll do the pressure washing towards the end. I know everybody always throws a fit about not pressure washing first thing, but it was in the single digits when I got this, so it wasn't really possible to do that without everything just freezing up. I'd like to eventually build some sort of small building that has a drain in it where I can pull it into a heated area, and it also has like a water catchment system, but I don't have one, so we're just dealing with what we got here. So I just got a bunch of parts for this, so let's go ahead and put some of those on. So the first thing I think would be important is replacing these struts, because it holds up the cab. Right now we have a pin in it, but it's really hard to get that cab open, and you need either two people or a strap going to something else just to open it. So replacing these struts makes it so it's easy to lift that cab with one person, and it's not dangerous. bit back.
Put too much more.
Yeah, just let it go just a little bit. There we go.
Got it?
Yeah. Alright. Okay, so that's the ignition that I got from Takeuchi, which is quite a bit different from this one. This one's only got start, run, and accessory. If it'll even turn. Okay, that's all I wanted to see.
Oh yeah, that's the one. That's the one. Oh, there's another dead man seat.
So I've done most of the important stuff to the engine and the electronics to get this thing functional. At this point, I think the next and most important thing to do would be to start on the fabricating and welding here. See, we got a lot of rot, and it's actually worse on the inside. This is paper thin right here. I really don't know what kind of life this had. I'm assuming it was just shoveling salt all the time. There's just no other explanation for this. Unless it sat in water that was 18 inches deep for years and years and years. Even that though, I think the rollers would be seized up. So to make this easier, because this is kind of a big project here, I'm going to take off, or attempt to take off, all these rollers, and I'm going to take off the track, and then I'm going to try to replace this piece instead of plating over it. Because when you plate over it, then on the back side, water gets trapped in these little pockets here. Because you form little pockets, and then if you weld the bottom and weld the top, then water can get behind here and just sit between the two pieces of steel, and that's never a good idea. So it'd be better for me to just replace the pieces rather than plate over it. Although plating over it would work, it's just not a good long-term thing to do. But you can see we got our work cut out for us. This is probably more work than I've done so far, but I knew about this. I didn't really know so much about the inside here, but judging by the outside, I knew it was pretty bad. And I knew behind flaking rust, there would be more rot. So we got all this scraped down to bare metal to put plates on, but I just changed my mind. I thought it's not a great idea for longevity of things.
It's amazing. All right, let's get this track off of here. Squeeze it. Stuck on the bottom over here. Oh, look at that. What? Why didn't you just do that in the first place? Because the was stuck like that. So heating the one next to it made it up. Smells good. I got it. Oh, deadly. That is pretty amazing. Or we can use the jack to wheel it around. out as I wanted it to.
So this plate on the outside is pretty easy, but the one on the inside is going to be a lot harder to get to. So I'm almost thinking before I put the plate on the outside, maybe I can cut out the one from the inside and fit that, and maybe even weld it up before I put the one on the outside on. The one on the inside is actually worse. And there's also these gussets right here, which this one's like non-existent. I don't think that these are important to be exactly where they are right now, as long as they're kind of in between the rollers, and they look to be about 2 inches. I'll probably just cut those out, put new ones in. Kind of have to do that like after I put these 2 outer plates in. And you can see I got that too, and then there's also that and that. This is definitely a lot more work than I thought with this frame, but kind of into it now, so gotta keep going. I know I said I didn't really want to plate over things because it could trap water, but at this point I think after I do these 2 outer plates, everything else is going to be like a patch job. Like I'll probably patch that in, patch this in, patch this in. I want to do things the right way, but at the same time this is like overwhelming to do it the right way.
See why that would be leaking. That O-ring is a little chewed up, but it seems like it ought to still seal. This is the other one.
Oh, that's definitely leaking.
Not leaking around the O-ring. That O-ring is perfect. I would say this is the culprit. This has probably just got stuff on it because it got sprayed and it's all filled with sand. O-ring on that side. Oh no, that's not an. This isn't an O-ring. I don't know what this is. This is metal. The O-ring for this is inside this. Now this one, I can't get it to turn free of this. This whole thing wants to turn with it. That probably
I
doesn't
think if
weld
we
it.
maybe spray that spot with DB Blaster and
It felt like it gave it a little bit.
oh, it looks like yeah, it's moving. There you go. Now it's going.
Just needed to break the heel.
Other than vacuuming.
Yeah.
I don't have anything to do but let it go.
I don't know if that's going in things.
It's not.
Alright, so that little spot, I don't know, something happened with the pattern and it was shorter than it needed to be, so I got that big gap there. I got to fill that in with a piece of steel. But I got everything all welded up. Just don't look at that. Don't look at that. Or that, or that, or that, or that. But from here, over to here, it's pretty good. Just don't look at that.
I'm gonna do it again.
Otherwise, it looks good. Some of this old steel is like really pitted, and it's got like flakes of steel that are, I guess, we didn't prepare it 100%. So there's some places like that, which I'm definitely not happy about. I'm gonna regrind that down and re-weld it, but otherwise, it's looking pretty good in most spots. So now I gotta weld these little tabs on the inside here, and it's like this little flat spot that goes on the rollers. So the tab kind of locates the roller so that the roller can't spin. Like if that roller seized up, it would just start spinning and it would probably destroy these holes. So I think that's why they have these here.
to give it a positive stop. That way this roller just stops spinning and it just tears up the roller instead of your frame. And then I need to weld on some gussets because there was some gussets right here and another one right there. So we still got a lot of work to do. So on this side of the machine, this frame isn't near as bad. Like I don't need to rebuild this whole part right here, but there is some spots like that, and that, and that. And the other thing is, there's these extensions that go to the final drive from these hydraulic hoses to make them longer. They're like a solid extension. And every one of them is completely rotted out to the point where one of them is actually leaking. So we tried to clean them up to see if we could salvage them, but they are just so pitted that there's like a lot of steel missing. And we don't even know which one is bad. So I just ordered all new, they call them adapters, which they're really just hose extensions. So we're gonna go ahead and put all new ones in on both sides of the machine. It's quite expensive. It's like 500 bucks to get all these, but I just don't want to deal with this again. It turns out that that area in there just collects all kinds of stuff. So I'm sure there was like salt and stuff that was just sitting in there for years. So at this point, we are going to pull the tracks on this side. We're gonna pull the sprocket, pull the final drive, clean off and spray paint the final drive and make it look all new. Clean out that area in there, put all new adapters on. Just do the works, because I don't want to do this again someday. I don't want to have this. I might bring this machine up to the Adirondacks, and I don't want to be dealing with anything up there, like anything stupid like that I should have gotten while I could have. So we're gonna go ahead and pull off the rollers. We're gonna pull off the front idler, and we're gonna see what condition the spring is in, the tensioner spring, because on this other side, the tensioner spring is completely shot, and it's just broken in several places, and it was working, and I tried to get a new spring, and it was like $60, but when I went to actually order it, they didn't have it, and they said they no longer make that spring. But what's funny about that is you can buy this whole assembly here with the frame and the spring and the rod that goes through it, but you can't buy the spring by itself. So the whole assembly is like almost $800, and I may have to actually get that, but I'm hoping I don't have to get it for this other side too. This side here, I'm hoping that that spring is all right. If it was a matter of just buying a $60 or even $100 spring, I would just go ahead and buy it for this side and put it in, even if it's not broken. But I'm not going to pay $800 for a whole assembly, especially if it's not broken. So we're going to pull everything apart like we did on the other side. We're going to see what we can do to make this thing right and not have to deal with this undercarriage ever again. So right now we're making some cribbing that we can jack up the front and back of the machine so we can have both tracks off the ground without using jack stands on 4 points. That way we can get the machine another 6 inches higher, so it's easier to work on things. Because right now I am still working on this side, and you can also see that these adapters are completely rotted out as well. So that's why I ordered all 10 adapters, because there's 5 hoses here all together, and there's 5 on each side, so there's 10 adapters all together. And we're gonna go ahead and do the same thing here. We're gonna pull off the sprocket, pull off the final drive, clean out the final drive box there, paint the final drive, and then put it back, and then, yeah. So that's the plan. Our workload just like tripled, but it is what it is. I don't want to do this again.
Better not. Can you hit that from the end? Yeah, that camera's in the way all day.
All the time.
All the time. Hey, look at that! Whoa! We did something!
Did it do things?
I did a thing!
I missed it.
The camera's on. Just watched it. The camera's also right in the way. Hey-oh! Dangerous things.
And that is why I wanted to take that out. Look at that. Hey, anybody got a light? Put that light in there. That is exactly why I wanted to take this out. And also, shine it over here on this. Look at that. That's just, that needs to be pressure washed or something. There's a whole mouse colony in there.
That is the mouse Bellagio.
And there's mud, sand, salt, hydraulic fluid.
Well, I know what we're doing on the other side.
Yeah, we're doing it.
Where's that, scraper thingy.
I am the scraper thingy.
There.
I want to make sure we
Is that
clean
like
out these threads.
bare shiny metal right there? There's
Yep.
more right there.
Yeah, where this was
I didn't
sealed.
know it existed on this.
because it was sealed
I
away
thought this
forever.
machine took salt baths every day.
Look at that!
Well, at least the spring is kind of not broken.
Can't really tell.
Yeah, looks like it's in bad shape, but
It looks like it's all in one piece though.
yeah, maybe, maybe not. I don't know. Looking pretty weird.
Well, I think I just gotta take this hammer and chip some of that stuff off there. Yep. Looks like a Honda Civic coil spring.
Yeah, you know, they probably only sell you the whole assembly because it's under pressure or tension.
Looks good.
You know, that's probably compressed right now, so that's
Yeah, it's
probably why they don't want to sell you.
Probably this long when you start. It's compressed that much.
That's probably for safety reasons. That's why they don't want to sell you the spring, which is really stupid. This whole thing is like $800, and it doesn't even come with the idler either. It's just this frame and the spring and the rod and nut. That's it.
I'm glad to see there's not a hole rotted in the final drive because that's like $5 grand.
I guess one of these days I gotta get an O-ring boss kit. But this works for now.
PC's getting real silent.
Destroyed this pipe.
So how do you get it off or on again?
It's fine.
So on this side I got things pretty much wrapped up. As far as the welding, I think I'm 100% done on this side. I got all these plates on here. I replaced the two main parts, like I guess you could call it the rail on both sides. And we started to get these hoses off. Two of the hoses broke when we were trying to get them off to try to get those extensions out. So we're gonna have to replace a few hoses, and we're gonna continue to try to get this final drive out of here so we can get behind there the same way we did with the other side. But at this point I want to move on to this side, which doesn't need near as much work, but it still needs to be done. So I need to patch in these areas. And I'm kind of thinking that I'll replace this piece here. I'll cut that out and put a new piece in, but the rest of them I'm just going to patch over them. I don't really know why I want to do that. I just have a feeling that that's probably the best option. So we just need to patch in a few other places. And this one is ready to clean out and paint all these areas after I get this patched in. And these hoses are newer, so I don't need to replace any of them, but I am going to replace all these adapters. I got all of them shipping to me. Hopefully I should have them tomorrow. So when there's a really wide gap like that, I just make like 1 or 2 passes, let it cool for a second or two, make another pass, and I keep doing that. And it's cherry red the whole time, but just that 1 or 2 second pause between clicking the trigger is enough to let it cool down to where I don't blow through it, and I keep adding to the weld. Someday I'll let you guys watch through the mask. I'm not a professional welder, but I've welded a lot of stuff over the years. So I think in the interest of making this piece look decent, I'm going to grind down those welds to make it look like it was never even there. And then I'm going to weld the back side so it's got the strength that it needs. And then we can plate over the other sides, over here and stuff. But this rail right here, I just wanted it to be one continuous piece, even though it's not, but it'll look like it is anyways. Let's see what we got going on outside here. So we were trying to get this final drive out of here, and that bolt just has like nothing left to it, so we couldn't get that off. And then that bolt and that bolt are the same thing. There's just like not much left of them. They're kind of eroded, so it wouldn't be a proper buying and fixing video without having to weld some nuts onto these bolts. Although I think we already did that earlier in the video, but now we'll do it on some bigger bolts.
got it.
Yeah, we got it. Well, perfect though. Got it. Came out easy. That's it.
I think you just got to get the other side now. Shadow City. Whoa, Nelly. Nice.
Going down.
It's like swinging.
Going down.
Can you go down or?
Yeah.
That's that one. Now we got this one. So there is that one. So getting pretty close here. The only thing I think I really need to do is just patch a little spot right here. And then I need to do something inside of here on the sides there. That's going to be really hard to film, so I'm just going to do it and check back in later.
on the area right here that holds the final drive, or the drive motor I should say, and it's obviously worn through. I'm not going to plate that though. I'm just going to go ahead and fill that in with weld. And it's a really tight area, so I can't really put the camera in here while I'm welding, but I'll check back with you in a minute and show you how it looks. Alright, so it's looking pretty good. Right? I mean, being that there was like a 1/2 inch gap there, and it was paper thin around that gap, I put a lot of wire in there. So that should hold up pretty good. So we're ready to start painting, and then we can start assembling here. So last night I got everything all painted up, so we are ready to install stuff today. But the one problem I have is that there was 3 of these bolts that would not come out, so I had to weld on some nuts to them. And I tried to locate new bolts and I could not find them anywhere. These are an M16 with a 2.0 pitch, and so without having to order these, because that would just take a while, I'm gonna cut off these nuts because they're kind of crooked. So I'm gonna cut the nuts off, and I'm gonna weld on some new nuts that are straight, and we're just gonna reuse these. And I bought a tap and die so that we can make it a little bit easier. We're also gonna put anti-seize on everything so that nothing goes in hard or comes out hard if it ever needs to come out.
looks like somebody had already cut down the end of this bolt, which I don't understand, because this is so rotted out that I'm sure that nobody's touched this since the machine was assembled. It's kind of weird. And I didn't see any signs of a broken tip in there either, which it is a little bit shorter than these other bolts. So it almost looks like it broke off in there, but I couldn't find any evidence of that. That's the easy one. That's the medium-sized one, which there's only one, so can't screw that up.
This is A. This one here is A.
Oh, new one on the top.
Put back.
Right there.
right there. I think.
you think?
Temperature gauge works.
Oh God, that's cold wind. Cold, cold, cold. Oh God.
Seems fine. As long as it ain't leaking. Yeah. It smelled like a little bit of.
It smells like it smells like something hot.
Yeah.
But it's probably all the dust. It's probably all the dust that was on there from sitting for years. Do the lights work on this thing?
One up front does.
Wow, that's a start. Well, that's a great success.
Alright, well, I was really intending on just doing one video for this machine here, but it turns out that the more and more we got into things, the more and more we discovered that there was more wrong with it. And then right when I was about to be finished, or what I thought would be finished, and then I found more. So I think we got enough work here to cover another video. All 4 of these pins won't take grease as well as that one. There is a huge dent in the oil pan. I want to replace that. I want to flush the fluids in the final drives. I want to flush the coolant. I'd like to clean the fuel system on it, flush out that whole system. And then there's a bunch of miscellaneous smaller things. And I'm sure I'll find a lot more as I'm working this machine. I don't really see any fluids leaking right now, but you never know. Also, I probably will address the spring in there, even though I don't know if it really makes sense to, because it works the way it is right now, even with that spring being broken in several places. The track stays tight. So I don't know. I'm not really sure about that. Don't hold me to that, because that's like $1,600 to do that. But I don't know. I'll think about it. But just to let you guys know the plan for this machine, my dad has been looking for a skid steer, and he wants to trade me a piece of property that's next to the piece of property that I bought. It's right next door to it. And he wants to trade a skid steer for that piece of property. So I was gonna get him a skid steer. This one is worth quite a bit more than the property is worth. So I'm thinking of giving him my Takeuchi, which is a perfectly good machine as well. So I might bring that home from up in the Adirondacks and switch it out with this one and bring this up there. Oh, also, I got to do a bunch of work to this bucket. I want to try to save it, even though it's not worth it necessarily. I just want to do it just because. And also, another huge problem is this quick change does not work at all. They actually welded this in place. And then these handles are like flopping around in the breeze. Nothing works. And those pins that go down to lock this quick change into place are just welded onto the bucket. So we got a lot of work just in this area between the pins and that, and some of the pins are seized up. We got a lot of work to do. So it definitely warrants doing a second video on this. And it doesn't look like the cylinders are leaking, but they're seeping a little bit. So I'll have to run it and see what else I can do. Also, I'd like to make a door for this too, and I'd like to make a door for my other machine at the same time, because it'd be the same exact one, so it would be really efficient to make two of them at once. You know, it might take just a few extra minutes and I'll have two doors, because I'm kind of going to design it from scratch. So yeah, we definitely got enough to do another big video on this. So as far as the money that I have into this, I paid $8,500 for it, and I probably have about $1,000 in materials. And then I don't know exactly what it would be for all the labor. Probably a lot. If I wanted to take a guess on like charging for labor and stuff, I probably got, between buying it and the materials and the labor, I probably got 20 grand into it. It's definitely a little bit more than I thought. It definitely was more involved than I thought, and there's more work to go. But having a track machine is really nice. Like if I didn't have another track machine and this was my first one, I would be really happy right now. Because I paid quite a bit for the other machine that I have that was exactly identical to this. And I had to do a lot of work to that as well. I had to rebuild the engine in that. So I'd be happy if I had this for my first track machine. Also, it is very cold out and it has not warmed up. It's been in the single digits and into the negative teens at night. So I have not gotten a chance to pressure wash this out. That is a big job that I need to do. But I have to wait a few more weeks for that. We just don't have the weather for it right now. I hate that I wasn't able to do it, but it kind of is what it is. We'll get that on the next video. So look out for that video, and I won't bring it up north until I'm done with that. So I guess that's it for this video, guys, and I'll catch you on the next one.